Why, as beginners, are we encouraged to use watercolour, which is actually one of the hardest paints to use, when something like acrylic is so much easier? Today I thought I would do a quick video comparing the two and discussing why, as beginners, it's easier to use acrylic paints. Watercolours are really good for the teacher because they can teach painting and drawing in the same lesson. If you think of all the ink and watercolour or the line and wash tutorials that I've done, you can combine teaching to draw and then putting the colour on top with a nice layer of watercolour. And they are great for ink and wash. You can get some really lovely little pictures. But there are so many drawbacks to watercolours for beginners, and I think for some beginners they can permanently put them off painting. They're very unpredictable. We've got to learn how much water to put on our brush, how much water our brush holds, how much water our paper holds and absorbs, what type of paper we need to use, and we need to get used to knowing our individual watercolours, the different brands, and how much water to add to the palette. And then we've got to contend with things like cauliflowers, or blooms as some people might call them, where the water pulls back the paint and makes ugly messes on the paper. They're very unpredictable. They're very difficult to correct mistakes. Some colours will pull out of the paper, some won't, some will dye the paper, and then it's difficult to correct them. Obviously they're transparent, so you've got to build up the layers to get any kind of intensity of colour. So they're very rewarding. Once you practiced every day and got used to them, you can make some beautiful paintings. And I particularly like them for flowers because they're delicate, and flowers are delicate things and they really lend themselves to that subject. The other reason I think teachers encourage people to use watercolours when they're starting out is because they're very easily available. They're easy to go and just buy a set all in one little palette, and you can carry them to your lessons very, very easily. They're very portable and they don't make a mess. So if you're going to a class, perhaps in a village hall or a school or a college, and you spill your watercolours either on your clothes, the desk, the floor, they're very easy to wipe off. They're not going to spoil anything. So I think sometimes this is led by the teacher, the fact that all beginners learn watercolours first. I would recommend that you try out acrylics. I did an acrylic course the other week with some people in a local art group, and a lot of them, although they were very accomplished at painting, had never used acrylics before. But they're perfect for beginners because there's absolutely nothing you can do wrong, because you can always paint over. The other great thing is you don't have to worry about what type of fancy papers you need to buy, how heavy they are with the weight for the water that they're going to be taking in with the watercolours. You can use some mount card, you can use a nice thick card, you can use a thick paper, some canvas paper, some wood, whatever you've got to hand you can use your acrylics on. And you can get immediate results with that vibrancy and thickness of colour that you would take time to build up with the watercolours. So if you like bright colours and lots of coverage, you might be disappointed with your watercolours. The main drawback to acrylics, of course, is that they dry very quickly, and also that they can be a little bit more messy than the watercolours. But they do wash off. You can wash them out of your clothes, you can peel them off with your nail, you can use some nail polish remover. There are all sorts of ways you can get the acrylics off clothing and desks, etc. So don't worry too much about that. The other drawback is that you need to be very diligent about cleaning your brushes. But again, once you get used to that, that's not a problem. Just always have a nice big jar of clean water to give your acrylic brushes a really good wash out. And every few weeks, if you like, you can pop them in some brush cleaner overnight just to give them an extra good clean. Again, your brushes are probably slightly more less expensive than the watercolour brushes. You're not going to be buying expensive sable brushes if you're using acrylics. So if you want a good coverage, lots of intensity of colour, lots of choice of nice bright colours, and to have a bit of a play with some nice creamy textures to mix those colours on the paper, I would highly recommend as a beginner that you have a go with some acrylics. So I hope you found that useful. I think that's about everything I have to say. I've popped some notes on this video. I'm not sure that the voice will go along with the notes that I've put. I'm actually doing this voiceover on my phone because the microphone on my camera isn't working. So yeah, that's about everything. I think I will come back with an acrylic tutorial again soon. We'll talk a little bit more about why I really like working with acrylics, and you can see some of my own work on here, how I build up the layers, build up the colours, and we'll, you know, have a bit of an explore with them. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. In the meantime, you enjoy your own painting and drawing. Bye bye for now.